It's about the view. It's like it's become like a medical hospital that displays human failure. Like it's like here. Let's look at this political oddity. It's like it really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But the View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. How can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much, we were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're...
Whoopi Goldberg just found out the hard way that sarcasm doesn't bounce at slaps after Greg Gutfeld and Kat Timpf teamed her like a roast at a comedy club. Whoopi didn't just lose the argument. She lost the plot one minute. She's smug on The View. The next, she's Googling how to recover from public humiliation. What do they say that sent her spiraling into a meltdown? Stick around. This is a takedown you have to see to believe.
Hey, everyone. Well, not if you're Whoopi Goldberg. A.K.A. Karen Johnson. Yeah, who knew Whoopi was a Karen? I thought that was only for white people, like Toyota Priuses.
Whoopi Goldberg is many things: an actress, a comedian, a daytime TV oracle, and apparently now the proud owner of the most fragile soapbox in American media. For years, she sat at The View's oversized table, like it's Mount Olympus, dishing out half-baked hot takes with the confidence of someone who once won an Oscar and now thinks that qualifies her to referee politics, morality, and occasionally basic facts.
So cute when one of their side gets punished. They sulk like they ran out of raw cookie dough in the green room. Yeah, ABC suspended Whoopi for 2 weeks because she said the Holocaust had nothing to do with race. She said this on a show called The View, which makes everything about race.
But recently, that soapbox finally gave out under the sheer weight of irony, hypocrisy, and a well-timed intellectual sledgehammer from Greg Gutfeld. And Kat Timpf, the moment began like every other episode of The View. Whoopi dropped into her usual routine of performative outrage, arms flailing, voice deepening righteous fury, dialed up to 11. It was peak Whoopi, a Broadway counter performance of exasperation and moral superiority that could convince you she personally discovered the Constitution under a pile of vintage EGOT trophies.
Did you ever see such a group? It's amazing how Joy and Whoopi became the smart ones.
For me, the most shocking thing about the conversation was how truly boring it was. They're like, well, the cicadas, they're cicadas. Okay, but it was like every 100 years. No, it's every 17 years. Do you know how many Emmys this show has? 31.
31 Emmys?
This show has 31. I mean, I'd hate to see the conversations that don't make headlines. What?
And we don't have a single
Not a single one.
What does that tell you about the Emmys, Kat? Yes, thank you, Mr. Boo.
It was business as usual until Greg Gutfeld decided he had enough of Whoopi's Broadway soap opera and ended his relationship with her. Gutfeld didn't show up with venom. Rather, he showed up with something far more dangerous: receipts, wit, and the unsettling ability to laugh. While tearing apart someone's entire worldview, imagine a man at a barbecue casually flipping burgers while outlining how the entire premise of your televised tantrum makes less sense than a hall.
No. It's not about race.
It's about a different race.
But it's not about race. It's not about race.
What is it about?
Because it's about man's inhumanity to man.
Yeah, that's heroically stupid. Even for The View. What did you think Hitler meant when he said master race? The 100-meter dash at the Berlin Olympics? So for the first time in The View's history, it's not about race. Just some whites exterminating 6 million other whites.
That was Gutfeld. His dismantling of Whoopi didn't come with dramatic music or fiery speeches. It came with calm, steady punches of logic wrapped in snark. He began by poking holes in the porcelain fortress of Whoopi's credibility, starting with a mismatch between her impassioned moral grandstanding and her selective memory one moment. She's a poster child for freedom of expression. Next, she's ready to throw people into a metaphorical gulag for saying something she doesn't like. Gutfeld didn't need to shout about it. He simply stacked the contradictions like a game of ideological Jenga and watched as it all came crashing down. There's something inherently unsettling about watching someone who has built their persona on speaking truth to power suddenly look like a parody of that very thing Gutfeld exposed: how The View isn't a platform for discussion. It's a sound stage for elite outrage place where nuance goes to get waterboarded by applause. Signs and Whoopi, she's the ringmaster of that. Circus, or at least she was, until Gutfeld showed that the Emperor's robe of righteousness was about as real as a reality show romance. But it wasn't just about pointing out the inconsistencies. Gutfeld drilled into something deeper: the cultural decay wrapped in celebrity sanctimony. It's easy to rage against injustice when you're buffered by millions of dollars of loyal studio audience and the unwavering support of media ecosystem, built to protect its favorite mascots.
I bite myself in the face so I can feel something. You know, it's like so boring. He's like, yeah, I like Instacart, but don't worry, I tip the poors. But, you know, Joy, you actually don't like Instacart, and you do like the store. And then Joy is like, yeah, I do. I like to go to the store. I like to walk around and see what's at the store, what I do want, what I don't want. Maybe I want tuna fish, and I just want to hit.
Gutfeld didn't just mock Whoopi. He dismantled the illusion that she speaks for the people. Because here's the thing: when you spend years as a media darling, you forget that real people can still tell when you're full of it. Enter Kat Timpf wielding sarcasm, like a scalpel and glasses that make her look like she just walked out of a book club, and into a roast where Gutfeld delivered the demolition with philosophical flair. Timpf brought the stand-up comic energy with a libertarian edge sharper than Whoopi's cheekbones. In 1992, she didn't even flinch. She walked and took a look at the wreckage and thought, why not add a little glitter? Timpf didn't waste time pretending Whoopi's arguments deserve respectful engagement. No, she walked straight past the intellectual debate section and headed straight for "this is ridiculous." And we all know at Isle her specialty: unmasking pretense with humor, and The View practically gift-wrapped a 10-pound boxer before her. She began by aiming at the myth of the morally invincible Whoopi, the wise oracle who speaks on behalf of every oppressed person, every misunderstood artist, every poor soul who ever accidentally stumbled into a voting booth and left crying.
You look tantalizing. You know, I make fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered.
3 years, that's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds